What's up, guys? In today's video, we're gonna be reacting to the Russell Westbrook, Paul George, and Carmelo Anthony trade. So I'm just gonna be going through the video, and I'm gonna be reacting to the interview. So, yeah. Oh shoot, sorry. We'll start with this one, I guess.
Paul George, what's the latest there?
Yeah, Ramona Shelburne is all over this story. Paul George has been traded to the Oklahoma City Thunder. We are still trying to determine what the pieces are here, but the impetus for this is Russell Westbrook. The Thunder were concerned that Westbrook would not sign an extension to his contract that they're ready to offer him tonight. Now they have Paul George to be able to offer two. It seems like they're going to be willing to roll the dice here and accept the chance of Paul George leaving after a year. But if that gets them, Russell Westbrook to re-sign into the fold, it may be worth it, and they become a more serious contender in the Western Conference. Really stunning. We did not hear Oklahoma City as an option for George throughout this process, but there was momentum towards another deal with Paul George this afternoon with Indiana. They have a lot of young pieces in Oklahoma City. We'll see which ones were contained in the deal. That's going to be key to evaluate it.
Yeah, Ramona just tweeted that she's hearing it's Oladipo and Sabonis, but here it is, a one-year rental with Paul George, considered, I don't know, top 12, depending on who you ask, player. But what do you think? You mentioned Russell Westbrook, but what's the line of thinking? You know the Oklahoma City front office. What's the line of thinking that they can get him in and both into their system and make it work long term?
And Oladipo. I mean,
Oladipo does have a connection, obviously, to Indiana with playing at Indiana University, and that has some relevance in a place where they need to sell tickets. And I'm not so sure that the Thunder were thrilled with the contract extension.
I think it's a bad trade. Oladipo is a three-point shooter, but I don't think he's just good enough.
That they gave Oladipo at the start of
he was like a nice touch to the Thunder, I guess,
last season
in the playoffs, but yeah.
Which was around $80 million over the next 4 years. And it didn't look maybe as good after Oladipo's first season there. So they get off of that contract. And now if the worst happens and Westbrook doesn't extend and George walks, at least they have a clean salary cap sheet. This is an incredible use of assets by Sam Presti. We'll see if there's any draft picks in the deal. What's interesting here is that it's clear that Indiana didn't have a great offer. They get Oladipo on a long-term deal, like I said, that's sort of squishy in terms of its value right now, and Sabonis, who had a decent rookie year but certainly not a standout, didn't make the all-rookie teams. That's not a very impressive haul for Paul George, and I think that's indicative of the fact that the Pacers didn't have a lot of great offers.
Alright, now we're going to watch what they think on Carmelo Anthony.
In surprising news on Saturday, the New York Knicks agreed to trade the 10-time All-Star Carmelo Anthony to the Oklahoma City Thunder in exchange for receiving Enes Kanter, Doug McDermott, and a 2018 second-round pick. Meanwhile, Melo agreed to waive his no-trade clause and his $8.1 million trade kicker to accommodate the deal, expected to be finalized on Monday. And with less than 30 days until the NBA's opening night, we welcome in our Chris Weber, TNT analyst, among many other things. And Chris, OKC's matchup against the Knicks during TNT's opening week just became a bit more exciting, huh?
It is. It's going to be really exciting, especially when you look at the first game of the season with Kyrie going back to play against his team in Cleveland, and now it's going to be some really exciting games. That's what you got to love about the NBA is the fact that our off seasons sometimes move with the pace of our mid-season stride. So it's very exciting right now.
And Chris, Melo had agreed to waive his no-trade clause for Houston. Later, he added Cleveland and OKC. Why, though, was the Thunder the right fit here?
Well, I'm really not sure. I think first and foremost is his relationship with other players. Billy Donovan is not a veteran coach, and so it's not a situation where you would leave your team to go play for that coach, and that's nothing bad speaking about Donovan. It's just the truth. He's only been in the league 2, maybe 3 years, and so he has a learning curve. I think it's the fact that you trust each other, and when I see moves like this, woke up this morning, Kevin Cottrell had a bunch of stats for me, and it's just incredible. I think when you look at Carmelo and the fact that he shoots 41%, 42% from the three-point line on catch and shoot. And I've always said he's one of the best catch and shoot players in the game, but he's never really played with great point guards to give him the ball. And now I think that we'll be able to see Westbrook, who still will be dominant, who still should take the last shots of the game or have the ball in his hands in last possessions of the game, now be able to drive, kick it to the corner to some great knockdown shooters and guys that he can trust. So I just think it's just going to be exciting, and that's why I think he waived that trade clause to play with talent. It's much easier as a really great player on your team to play with other players that garner the same respect defensively and the same respect from coaches, and now Melo has that in 2 younger players. So I could definitely see why OKC seemed to be greener pastures for him.
As we look at the bigger picture, Chris, how does this affect the landscape of the league, besides the obvious one less All-Star in the East?
Yeah, well, he's the 4th All-Star, the Eastern All-Star to leave and head west. And I can tell you personally, it's much more fun to play ball in the West because of the style of play, and the styles of play are drastically different. But very honestly, I don't see a championship. I see a learning curve. This probably isn't the last moves that they have to make. Anytime you have a player like Melo score 10,000 points, 1 or 2 players or 3 players to score 10,000 points for 2 teams, it's just incredible the potential that they have. The same with Westbrook, former MVP. The same with George. But I still
did not know Paul George only averaged 23 points a game. I thought he averaged like 27 or 26. I didn't know Carmelo. I thought Carmelo averaged like 14, 20. I don't know.
I think that with the loss of Cantor, who was a post scorer, defensively, how they're going to try to run him, maybe attack Melo on defense. I still think that you have to look at teams that have been together much longer as teams that maybe have an upper hand, such as San Antonio, such as Golden State, and maybe even for some the Clippers. But it should be interesting this year.
And we've talked about these super teams having to sacrifice statistically. You mentioned that reigning MVP on the roster, Russell Westbrook, having averaged a triple-double. How now do you best distribute this ball among a roster of all-stars?
I'm one of the guys that think that you can do it. I think that if anything, his assists will go up this year. If he took the same number of shots and made the same number of passes as he did last year, and 4 more guys just make shots, they have a better record already. So one thing you always want to have is a great point guard. I've been blessed to play with a couple of them. And so I think he'll facilitate, get the guys in their spots.
I knew Westbrook averaged 31. Or I thought he averaged like 32, 34. But that's good. Last season he broke a record.
Understand, and this is the best thing about it is that now what's the defense?
I didn't even know they had Taj Gibbons now, but I didn't even know that. But yeah,
gonna do it's really you take what the defense gives you. So when he comes off a pick and roll of Melo, that's a hell of a decision making exercise real quick of who to go to. So he'll make the correct pass. Other players will make the correct pass because there's only 5 defensive players on the floor, but usually takes 2 to stop their main 3. So it's going to be definitely interesting. And Donovan has his hands full. He has to get creative, and he's going to have to earn that coaching check right now to put some nice offenses in there to see what these players can do.
And on the other end of that trade deal, the Knicks, how will Enes Kanter and Doug McDermott fit in? And what needs to happen now to propel this team forward?
Well, as a player, when you get traded, sometimes it's a moment of clarity, whether it is because someone believes in you that much and they want you on their team and you have to raise your game, or it's a moment of purgatory. Like, what do I do? I'm going to a place with not that great of a team. I'm going to a different situation. And for Cantor, he's one of the big fellas that I've loved his game. A traditional back to the basket player, can score, can get to the bucket, get to the foul line. Really great on offense. Defense, he struggles. And so now is he going to make that commitment for Hornacek and for that team there to be on the defensive sideline. That's where he is. McDermott has a lot to prove. You know, he's been known as a shooter, but he has a lot to prove. Shooting in this league is just not enough. You got to have all the things I'm sure he has, but that's heart, grit, grind, toughness on the defensive end, and willingness to play on both ends of the floor. And right now he's going to have that opportunity every night in there at a place where the fans let you know how they feel, and the fans in New York are very knowledgeable, so they hold you to high standards. So did a job he could in a situation like this. They have some really good young talent, and you know, hopefully that 2008 or add some chemistry and kill it inside.
And these two teams will go forward. Thanks for taking the time.
Always talking to you gets me excited. I can't wait.
All right, Chris.
Overall thing on the trade is, I think it was a good trade. I think they're a championship worthy team. Thanks for watching. See you later.